your novel, Pachinko. And actually, we received a boatload of questions, so many questions, and it was very difficult to choose which ones to ask. So we have chosen, I guess, the most commonly asked questions to cover first, and then we're going to move on to the Q&A session. So these questions were very carefully chosen. My first question, I'd like to begin with how you have visited Korea multiple times. And this is your first to actually meet with your Korean readers. And you're mainly here to celebrate the publication of the newly translated version of Pachinko. And as you can see, do you have an idea of how many people are with us today in the audience?
I was told that it's 2,000.
Yeah, that's what I was told too. Of course, we haven't counted. But here with us, yes, are more than 2,000 of your fans. How does this make you feel?
I feel really humbled by this because I wrote this book and I wrote another book without having a contract, without having an agent, and it never occurred to me that this would be possible. Very few authors ever get the opportunity to not just even have one publication in Korea, but then to have 2 publications and to be able to control the accuracy. It's an extraordinary honor.
And you did say that your family is here with you today. 안녕하세요, 반갑습니다. Welcome.
My cousins are here, and
Your actors are here too.
and my famous cousin Kim Youn is here.
So how does it feel for you to have your family here with you?
Oh, I mean, it's every kid's dream, right? Especially because when I was growing up, I wasn't like a very good student, and I was deeply unremarkable. I was very unremarkable as a young person. So at the age of 53, or I guess in Korea, I'm 54, finally something has happened. So I'm glad. Thank you for showing up today, because if you didn't come, it would have been, I think the expression in Korean is 쪽팔려.
망했다. So you are always on a very, very tight schedule with very little time between appointments and events associated with the republishing of Pachinko. You'll be receiving the Money Grand Prize for Literature. That's on Friday, the day after tomorrow. So congratulations in advance. So despite your crazy, hectic schedule, you always seem to be just charged with energy. I'd like to ask about maybe some of your favorite past events in Korea and the ones that you're, I guess, most looking forward to that's on your agenda.
Well, I've done several events in Korea which were very, very poorly attended. So I did one event, I guess in 2008, and it was a conversation about Virginia Woolf, and I was really excited to talk about feminism, but nobody wanted to listen. But it was really important because I met a wonderful person at that conversation who still is a dear friend of mine. As for future events, I think I'm going to have bingsu tomorrow.
You have not had bingsu so far?
No, because I have been working nonstop. But tomorrow, no matter what,
it'll be your first bingsu in Korea, right?
in a long time.
Okay. What's your favorite type of bingsu?
Oh, it's pad bingsu, and also I like nukcha bingsu.
Nukcha bingsu with
With duck and ice cream.
yeah. Oh, no pad?
Of course, pad. Yes, no, that's obvious. Yeah.
Okay. Well, since we don't have much time, let's rush to the first question, which is a very simple question, but one of the most asked questions, which happens to be, what does the book Pachinko mean to you?
Well, the title Pachinko is an allegory of what I think what life is like. I think that life is unfair. However, it's very important, in light of that knowledge, to still play this game of life. Ideally, we play it with morality and goodness and with kind intentions. However, it's very important to play.
Wow. She had a very brief introduction, and she said that she would try to keep it very short. And you are keeping your answers very brief today. All right, well, Pachinko is the first English language novel to depict the lives of Zainichi. I had not known about Zainichi before. Zainichi, it literally translates residing in Korea? Okay, residing in Japan, excuse me. So it provided an opportunity for people to look into the lives of Zainichi women in particular. I heard that you did research after research, and you interviewed so many people, not only in Korea and Japan and places all around the world. Could you maybe tell us about the interviews and the types of research that you did?
So, part of what my work is to create a beautiful lie.
A lie.
A lie. So a fiction, by definition, is a story, and it's not true. And yet, in order to have you participate in my lie, I have to tell the truth emotionally. And because I write social realistic novels, they must be accurate in terms of what happened. This is a historical novel. It's not a history book. So in order for me to do that, I needed to meet as many people as possible, because the version that I wrote initially, based on only book research, was incredibly boring. So I had to throw that away because I wouldn't waste your time. And when I started again, I met many, many Korean Japanese people. And when I met them, I thought, they're so interesting and powerful and funny and heartbreaking. And I thought, oh, I didn't tell the right story, because I was so motivated by my ego to be smart and to be political. But being smart and being political is not an interesting experience of reading a novel. So I had to throw out that book and start again. And based upon my research, I had to put back in the feelings and the humanity of the experiences of the character. And that's what happened.
But what is it like to throw away something you've worked on so hard and for so long? I mean, how is it for you?
You know, it's literally a throwing away, but I have a kind of, I guess it's a very positive interpretation, which is nothing is wasted. Mm-hmm. I think every single moment in my life is not wasted. It may feel like it's wasted at the time, and it is discouraging. However, I am who I am today because I messed up so many times before. So for example, I failed the driving test twice. I still don't have a license. No. I failed the bar exam when I was a lawyer. Why do I talk about it? Because I think that it's such a taboo to talk about the things that are setbacks. But in reality, if I hadn't failed the driving test, if I hadn't failed my bar exam the first time, I really wouldn't be who I am today.
Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself an optimist? Because you seem to take failure, pretty casually, pretty easily. It's no big deal. I failed, okay, I can try next time, or well, maybe it's not for me.
I think in some ways I'm an optimist, and in some ways I guess I could be a pessimist. But I think what I really believe is that I think life has meaning. Mm-hmm. So because I think life has meaning, every event, every moment has meaning. So here I am right now with Jennifer in front of over 2,000 people at Sejong University at Taeyang Hall. Why are we here? Mm-hmm. I have to believe that there's a reason why we're here.
That's what I believe too. There's always a reason. There's always a reason. Let's get back to the book. Now, Pachinko is a diasporic novel. I didn't know this word before. Okay, anyhow. And it's also about love, right? It's also about love and the relationship between family members even. And you speak a lot about love and freedom. And another question that many of our audience here have asked is, what does love and freedom mean to you?
So to go back to diaspora, it's a Greek word, it's a word that comes from the Bible, and it's really important because it was originally meant for the Jews of the Old Testament. And the reason why that's important is that the Jews experience a kind of expulsion from their homeland. And that is something that really spoke to me as a Korean person. And also, whether you're Korean or whether you're Chinese or whether you are French, diaspora is a social condition now of the 21st century of the highest order. We now even have environmental diasporic people. You can't live in a certain area because now the climate is too hot. And it's something that I think about a great deal. If you have to leave your country or your home because of the environment or because of war or because of oppression or because of lack of economic opportunity or imperialism, I wonder what happens to you, to your family structure. And that sounds really sad, and it is really sad. However, how do you change the world where you end up? And to me, that's really interesting because not only am I changed because I left Korea, but did I change America where I ended up? Is that even a possibility? Now, when I was 7, I didn't think that. When I left in 1976. But the more I meet people, I realize where we are, where we came from, and how we affect each other is really quite powerful. As for love and freedom, they're so deeply connected because if you really want to love, it will liberate the person who loves, and it can also liberate the person who is loved. Without love, I don't think it's possible to ever be liberated to become the person you are meant to be. And in this sense, this goes back to my philosophy. I believe that our lives have meaning. I believe that each of us are meant to be loved.
You just spoke about having left Korea when you were just 7 years old. And many wondered about your childhood in Korea. I mean, you must have memories, right? So what kinds of memories do you have of your childhood in Korea? What do you remember the most? And how was your childhood in Korea?
Well, we were very ordinary middle-class people in Korea. I grew up in Yuh-jung, and my father was a marketing executive for a cosmetics company that doesn't exist anymore. He worked for a company called Paris. And my mother was a piano teacher. She studied music at Yonsei, and she had neighborhood children who were her students. And when I think about my childhood home, I always think of my sisters and me. I'm the Trijay of 3 girls. I remember things like Christmas parties that my younger sister and I were not allowed to attend, that my mother had for her students. I'm still upset about it.
Oh. How many years apart are you, your sisters?
My older sister's 2.5 years older, and my younger sister's 2.5 years older. And my younger sister's not here right now, so we can tease her.
Oh, okay. And you were not allowed? You were not invited to the party?
Oh, because the parties are only for piano students.
Oh, that's fine.
But my younger sister and I were too young, so we had to go to Kanama's house. I'm still mad about this.
Mom let it happen, right?
And they had ice cream. So it's a theme. I really like ice cream.
Well, it's a good thing they didn't have puppies, right?
Right.
All right, and also, back to Pachinko again. Now, what stories are to follow Pachinko? And we'd like to know about the details of the characters that weren't expressed or shown through the novel. So could you tell us a bit about that?
So I'm working on my next book called American Hongwan, and that'll complete the diaspora trilogy called The Koreans. The Koreans did not ask me to write this book. I decided to write it. So I hope you like it, but if you don't tell me. As for the characters, as I intended it to be in Pachinko, if I did not talk about a certain plot line, it was very intentional. I want you to know that because I spent almost 30 years thinking, researching, and writing and rewriting this book, every word was really hard won. Every character was really hard won. I have often been asked if I will write a sequel.
Yes.
It will never happen.
Oh, that's one of our questions.
It will never happen. And I don't want it to happen because you own those characters now. Once you read the book, reading is such a powerful thing because when you read, what you imagine is only so much greater than what I imagined. Because in your mind, you have your own Sanjay, you have your own Hansu, you have your own Kim Chang-ho, and you can see it in your own mind. And in many ways, your imagination is so much more vivid and technicolor than I could ever portray in words. And I want you to have that experience.
I think we often, as a student, I remember our teachers telling us, whether it's a song or a book, you are the one to interpret it. It could mean this to you, it could mean a whole different story to someone else. So I think I understand. But, yeah, if only there were be a sequel to it, right? So what is a message that you truly hope to convey through, like the most powerful message perhaps that you want to convey through Pachinko?
I think the thing that's really important to me is really expressed in the first line. History has failed us, but no matter. I want to encourage each person in this room and anybody who reads the book to realize that ordinary people persist and can be defiant in the face of oppression, in the face of inequality, and in the face of discouragement. So there are many, many things in the world that are so unfair, and every person has a heartbreak every day, and yet, no matter, I want you to persist because I think that the struggle of life is actually quite beautiful.
How do you struggle with your difficulties, or how do you cope with stress?
I think what really helps me in my darkest moments is to believe that there's meaning in what I experience. Even if I don't understand the meaning in that moment, that perhaps one day I will see that interpretation in a more clear way. It's also very possible that we could die not knowing why something happened, and yet I believe that there is meaning. Like, I don't know why 9 people passed away in the past 48 hours, but 7 people are missing, and every single person who loves those 16 individuals must be in despair right at this moment. So that could be happening exactly at the time right now where I could feel joy at being with you. I find the human condition to be absolutely mystifying.
Yeah, I guess it's thinking a lot. Another question about this is about you actually. We've received a lot of questions about you. We'll get to the book. We'll get to more of the questions about the book later, but obviously not only has your novel Pachinko gained, rave reviews and interest, but you obviously are in the spotlight.